Hello everybody, it's Rhonda here from Nelson Soapery. Today we are going to make a super fun and definitely asked for video on how to make some magnesium oil cream. And this cream you can just rub on your body. It's nice and gorgeous and hopefully it will soothe those sore knees or muscles. But let's get going and we will make it. So first of all, we do need some of this. Now this is just some magnesium flakes, and basically you can make your own magnesium oil with it. It's super easy. It's 2 ingredients and you're going to think that is so easy. And then from there we are going to be making the body butter, of course, which will have the magnesium oil in it. So let me pop the camera down and let's get started. So now, of course, to start, we do need our scale. Please make sure you always use a scale to measure up everything. So we'll move that aside so that we can talk about exactly what we need. So we need some magnesium flakes. And basically what happens is we are going to be using this with water to make the oil, which is the main component of this recipe. So like I said, we need some magnesium flakes, so we'll pop them aside. Of course, you need a couple sanitized jugs, which I've got those, and we'll move them to the side. I've got my stick blender and a few different things to the side as well that we are definitely going to need. So inside here, I do have some sweet almond oil as well in here. And then I have some gorgeous unrefined shea butter. The one I use is an organic shea butter that is certified and it's fair trade from Deluxe Shea. Now inside here I have some cetyl alcohol. We need this for the slip and just that beautiful sort of glide onto the skin. So that's what we're going to use. Now in here I'm going to use some emulsifying wax NF, which means national formulation. So that's what we need in that as well. We're also going to be using some xanthan gum, which is just like a little powder that we're going to be adding. And we are going to add that into our beautiful glycerin, which is in here. And lots of people will use xanthan gum and glycerin. Xanthan gum just really helps keep the whole recipe together, stop it from moving and so on, which is super good, isn't it? Because that's what we actually need. And of course we do need some distilled water, which I've got in here, which is my pure distilled water. You definitely need that, so please don't skip that bit. You'll regret it if you skip that bit. So now let's get going and I'll show you exactly how we're going to do it. So we'll move all this away. I'm going to obviously put my gloves on, although this is just for me at home. This is not for anybody. I'm not going to sell this bit. But of course, if you're selling, you make sure that you, sanitize everything and do all of that. So like I said, let's get going and we'll start this gorgeous cream. Now the batch that I'm going to make today is a very small batch. It is only 100 grams because like I said, this is just one for myself, so I don't need lots and lots of this. This is actually for my son-in-law. I decided to make this one for him. So like I said, I've already sanitized everything, so let's just go and start to make the main components of it. So we need our little scale. I'm going to pop this on the scale, tear it out. And I want to make sure that this is in grams. I weigh everything in grams because grams is pretty close to what you need. A lot of other measurements are quite bigger, but this will get it very good. And we want it to be right as well. So now in this recipe, I'm going to be adding 50% water to my recipe. That's generally a normal one when you're making body butters, is around the 50%. Now, because we might lose a bit of water, I always add 1 or 2 grams extra because that will come back out of the recipe later on. So now I've got my water here. Now, remember, this part is what we are going to be doing to add in our magnesium flakes because we want to make some magnesium oil. So now it depends on how you want to do your recipe and so on. But I mean, I've suited this recipe because I've practiced a few times and changed the amount of flakes that I put in the water. But like I said, so we've got 50 grams here of water because that's 50% of my 100 gram recipe. And now we are just going to be adding in some of these. So let me just tear this scale out and we will add what I need in here. So like I said, make sure you measure it all up. We do want it to be right. All right, so I've got that in there, and now what I want to do for that is just basically mix it around, and slowly the flakes will dissolve. So we want to keep mixing this until it's really dissolved. If you want, you can warm up your water just a little bit to help you know, just to help them dissolve, but they will dissolve on their own if you give them a bit of time. And then once we do this, we're going to just set this little bit aside in a moment, because then we need to get on to step 2. Now, if you want the full recipe for this, it will be over on Patreon. It's over there, which is nice and easy, and you can grab the recipe over there, or else you can watch this tutorial, and I'm sure if you're clever, you can probably figure this out by yourself without my help. So now, like I said, we've done all of that, haven't we? So inside here, I've already measured my glycerin, which you can see there's just a tiny bit in here. And now what I actually want to do is just add a tiny bit of this xanthan gum. So I'm going to tear this out again. And look, you don't need xanthan gum. I mean, you might decide you don't want it in your recipe and it's not needed, but for me, I just know that this does make a beautiful body butter. And of course, we're doing a body butter with magnesium, so it's just a tiny bit different. So we're going to mix that around, and then I'm going to pop that into the water. So I've just got a little stick. I usually just mix everything with a little stick. Look, you could put it straight in the water, but what it does is if you just add, you know, your glycerin and stuff in the water, it kind of makes it, it just kind of gives this really stringy, kind of not very good texture to the water. So this way you don't have to get any clumps out or anything. So now we're just going to pop this back on here, and as I said, once we know that's ready, which we do, then I'm just going to pop it into here. So there's just a tiny bit. This will actually help it get nice and thick later on when we're getting to another step. And so basically with this, we've just got a water phase, and then we have an oil phase, which is, you know, standard for emulsified butters, so, or body butter I should say. So like I said, we can see that in here. So that is our water phase, totally done. We've done all that, we don't need anything else. So I'm just going to pop that over on the stove while we get to step 2. So now in here, this is going to be our oil phase. So as I said, we've got our shea butter, so let's just pop some beautiful unrefined shea butter in there. Then we're going to put in our emulsified, our emulsifying wax, NF. So that's the one I use. You could also use polar wax. Polar wax is amazing, but it is a bit more expensive. But not all waxes are the same, everybody. So do remember that. The one that I'm using is not a cheap one. There's much cheaper, but a lot of the cheaper ones don't perform as well. So I generally don't buy the cheaper product. So we're going to add that in. That's some cetyl alcohol that I've just popped in there. Now let's pop in our sweet almond oil. You could add lots of different oils, but sweet almond oil is just a really beautiful oil in my opinion. And I do also use that gorgeous oil in lots of different products, including my face masks as well. So now we've got that in there. We want to pop this on the stove so that we know everything's ready. So we've got everything to put into our small little tester for this. So like I said, let's go over, and we're just going to pop it on the stove now, wait for it to melt down, and then I will bring you back and we'll stick blend it. I mean, that's honestly as simple as this gets. Of course, we do need to put a preservative. We're going to put some vitamin E in as well when we get to that bit, but I'll tell you all of that as well. And as I did say, if you want the recipe, like I said, just go over to my Patreon and I'll give you the full recipe over there, and a few little tricks and tips as well for making body butter. But you know, once you start making it, you'll sort of say to yourself, oh, this is so easy. You'll really be amazed how easy it is. And lots of the products you can also get from your local store. Now, I will tell you, I do end up putting just a little bit of some beautiful lavender drops in the end as well, and that's my essential oil. I'm not putting fragrance in this one, just a few drops of lavender at the end. But I will bring you back, like I said, once the next bit's melted. So here it is sitting on my little stove. It's in a double boil, remember, and then like we said, on one side is the oil, the other side is the water phase. When that's melted down, we'll bring you back, we'll add it all together, and then we will blend it. All right, everyone, so this is ready now. So here we go, our tiny bit of oil in here. As I said before, it's only a small amount because we are just doing a small recipe. So now what we want to do is just double check the temperature, because basically we want this temperature to be very similar to the other water temperature. So usually I say take the oil off first, because oil will get hotter before the water. And if I look at this, this is 80 and the water here is only 50. So I'm going to just leave this sit on the bench just for a moment while I turn the water up and just wait for that to get to the right temperature. Then I'll bring you back, because basically all we want to do is just pour, pour the oil into the water phase, and then we want to mix it up. So now this is all ready. Let me just turn off my stove. So here I do have my water. They're at the right temperatures. Now let's just pour the oil in, and straight away you will see that it's going to start to get this sort of creamy kind of color. It will not take long to do its little thing because it's such a small amount. So let's just use the stick blender. And as I said, look straight away, you can see through it, it's definitely turned creamy. But the main thing with this, where people make a mistake, is they don't actually blend it long enough. And then what happens is it separates. So you need to do this for a couple minutes in small bursts, back and forward. And now all we need to do is let this cool down, and then we're going to come back and add our preservatives in and our vitamin E, and of course a tiny bit of essential oil if you want that, but of course you don't need that. But let me get finished with this and then I'll bring you back. Now it has cooled down enough, so what I'm going to do now is just add a little bit of just a couple drops of lavender oil, because that just is, as we all know, that's kind of like a calming, sleepy kind of oil, which is very popular, so, and a lot of people that want this kind of one love that lavender one. I do make a bath bomb with a similar kind of thing in it as well. So look how gorgeous this is looking. If I can show you how beautiful that is. It's not totally ready yet because of course we need the vitamin E, and we also need our preservatives. So we're going to once again get the scale. As I always say, you really do need a scale, and one that actually works quite well. You can get some really cheap ones for only $10 or something. But as I said, you really must use it. So depending on the preservative will depend on how much you actually put in this recipe. But I'm going to be using Octafin Plus. So generally that's about the 1% or just a little bit under that. So I'm going to just put my scale to the right mode because it needs to go back to grams. Once again, I will tear it out, and let me go and get the preservative because I forgot to get that, and then we'll add that in. So for anyone that doesn't know, this is what it looks like. I get mine from N Essentials. So, but I do have a tiny bottle, so I'm going to just try and use what I've got in this little bottle first. I think there should be just enough to make this perfect. So there we go, that was just enough in there. So let's just mix it up. You can use your the stand if you want, but of course your stick blender, but of course it's only a small amount, so I'm just going to mix this up by hand. And you do need to mix the preservative really well. If you don't mix it, it kind of looks a bit clumpy, and if I can show you up close, see how it looks horrible? That's because it's not mixed in yet, and that's how you can tell. I used to throw it out when I first started because I thought, oh no, it's separating, but it's not. It's the preservative isn't mixed in properly. So so anyway, so that's basically what that is. So just make sure you mix it in super well, and you can easily put in too much preservative, so just make sure that you're watching everything as well, and really measuring it up well. If you're worried that you'll make a mistake, you can always put the preservative in a separate container and then pour it into your main jug. Now, just to stop the oils going rancid, we're going to use vitamin E. Now, one thing that a lot of people may not know is there's two different vitamin E's. You've got your natural one and your synthetic. the one that's synthetic is not going to help with the oils going rancid. It's actually the natural vitamin E that does that. So if you're making creams and lotions, you need the natural vitamin E, which I know is hard to swallow because it is very expensive. You know, it's really expensive, but you get what you pay for in this world, don't you? So that's the thing too. And that's what I always say to people, even about pricing your products. Like my products, there are a lot of in mine, you know, I have a lot of organic shea butters and things like that, which are really expensive. And I use the A grade, more expensive products. So that's why my products are not, you know, $10 or anything for a body cream. That's why they are like nearly $19 for 100 grams, because I'm using much more expensive ingredients inside them. So as I always say, you know, you get what you pay for, don't you? But anyway, we've done that bit now, so let's just grab the vitamin E. I'll pop this away, and we're not putting fragrance in it, like I said, just that tiny few drops of essential oil. Now this is what the vitamin E looks like. I got this from Heirloom in Australia, so I can't remember the price, but I do know it was not cheap. I'm going to say maybe $40 or $50 for this, but I can't, maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, like I said, it wasn't cheap, but it's worth the money. 100% it's worth the money. You can get it in bigger containers than this, but for me, I'm only using it for what I'm doing, and we're going to just add 1% in here, which of course is only going to be 1 because we've got a small batch. So let's put the lid back on because that almost went everywhere. And if you can see in it, it's just that tiny little drop. There's not much. You don't need a lot of it. And then that's it. And then of course we need to get our jar, which I've got aside. I've already sanitized that. And then we're literally just going to put this in there. Now, if this was for a customer, once again, I say weigh everything. So here is my jar. I'm just going to pop that on. We will just tear that out, and this is ready just for me to pour it in. Like I said, we're only making 1 today, and this will get thicker as we go along, but don't put the lid on until it's definitely all at the right temperature. We definitely don't want that. And remember that if you're making, say you make 100 batch or 100 gram batch, it's probably not going to end up being 100 grams when it goes in, because you get bits stuck to the side of the jars and so on. So you really need to make like 120 or something like that. And I know people are going to say, oh, you could be doing it a different way. I could be, and I am going to buy, eventually I'm going to buy one of those lotion machines. I think they're like $200, and they pour it into the containers for you. You can manually just do it, but it's got like a little nozzle, so it's really, really easy. But anyway, I hope you have enjoyed today. I hope that this has been a really good show for you, just so that you can see. And I know I haven't made it look pretty in there, but it's going to be beautiful on the skin. And I will give this one to my son-in-law Reese and see what he thinks of it. Anyway, I will see you next time, everyone. Bye for now.